When an argument happens, our amygdala just lights up and hijacks our prefrontal cortex. I could see he was getting worked up, which I started to get worked up.
Completely ignored whenever she shared her idea, and it made me very defensive, and I felt unimportant.
Because when you go back and forth like that, it injures the relationship. I don't think I want to share creative ideas anymore with him. Like, we were in what we call the vicious vortex of death. It gains more momentum. What happened here and how did we end up arguing over this? Like, jabs were being thrown and I was throwing them back.
I should have said this and I should have said that, and this is gonna win this argument. I want to see Adele for who she is to me and not the way I feel right now. I had to let go of my ego, my need to be right.
It's very difficult to overcome a closed heart. I want to stay connected. I want my heart to stay open. I want you to be the safest person that I share with.
If I am not right about it, that means I am wrong. And I take that as there's something wrong with me.
You can just let go of being right. You can experience an amazing connection and intimacy with your spouse as well.
Hey, I'm Travis.
And I'm Adele.
And we are The Noble Marriage.
Welcome, returning friends. We're glad you're here. And if you're new here, welcome. We are so glad to have you. The Lord put us on this path because we have our own God story of healing and restoration in our marriage. And we want to share this freedom with couples all over the world.
We hope that through our channel, you will be inspired and motivated so that your marriage will be all that God created it to be. Hey, and welcome back to Coffee and Conversations, where Adele and I get an opportunity to debrief an argument.
Yeah, it's so fun. Like, it's not fun in the middle of it, but it's content for us to be able to bring to you guys so that you can find yourself in our stories. This one is a lot of fun to really debrief because it started off so ridiculous. Like, the way that it spiraled out of control was unbelievable.
But it doesn't seem ridiculous until you, after it's all done and you go back and think about it, you think about all the things, and you're like, that was absolutely ridiculous.
But
I'm sure you can see this in your own conversations, in your own marriage, where most of the arguments are ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like, what we're actually arguing about is not what we're arguing about.
Right.
There's something that's really laying underneath it that is actually there. And Adele and I have been doing this work being working on our marriage and our conversation and communication for 3.5 years now. We're so blessed to be able to use the tools that we're going to talk about in this particular argument, because it used to be when we would have arguments,
no matter what they were about,
it would be sometimes days or weeks that we wouldn't talk to each other. And
like, we would surface talk, just daily stuff, but we would not connect. Like, our hearts would not reopen at all.
For a long time.
Yeah, and our ability to forgive and all those things was not there. Also, we felt like we needed to earn each other's forgiveness. And so that's part of the reason why we would perpetuate it for so long. But man, I'm really thankful for the work that we have done in our own personal lives to really start to recognize responsibility in that argument of what's mine, what's yours.
Yep.
And then really objectively look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's why we argued.
And we teach this in our course, how to do what we are discussing or what we're talking about. Do you just want to work us through the argument?
Yeah, so we went for a walk. I had a creative idea for our channel that I wanted to share with Travis. So I shared that. I was really excited at the time. His initial response was, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's a good idea. You really started to go down the path of, we shouldn't do that. I was like, well, can you share more about that? Because I would really love to know. And your response, and it's so funny, part of looking back at an argument, what you think you heard sometimes is not actually what was said. And so
that's exactly what's going on right here, by the way.
Because we get hijacked, right?
Yes.
When an argument happens, our
This is
amygdala just lights up and hijacks our prefrontal cortex, which is our logical thinking. It's our short-term memory, things like that. And so I don't actually remember the specifics, but this is the way I think it went down.
You remember your own context.
Yes.
Yes. That's important.
You said, have you prayed about this? In my mind, I was thinking, well, I really want to understand where you're coming from. That question just wasn't important to me at the time. I felt like it was kind of a given. I'm going to pray about it, but that's not how he felt. Because I continued to ask questions like, where do you think your disagreeing is coming from? Like, what is there for you? And I could see he was getting worked up, which I started to get worked up. It just went downhill from there. It was, you just completely ignored my question, which when he said that I ignored him, I was kind of like, I did not ignore you. I'm trying to see your point of view. I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. And he was not having that.
Yeah.
So share your side.
Because I felt completely ignored whenever she shared her idea. It's not that I thought it was a bad idea, which I thought was interesting that your first words of what you thought I said was, that's a bad idea.
That you disagreed with my idea.
No, yeah, that's what I mean, is
Okay.
You felt like I disagreed with your idea, and that's not what I said, which I thought was interesting that was the first thing you said I said. But what was coming up for me was like, I don't know if that's a good idea. So I asked, have you prayed about that? And she didn't answer that. She asked me a bunch of questions, and that made me very defensive. And you're going to ignore me? You're going to ignore me asking that question? And I felt very righteous after that. And it sent me down this road of I felt unimportant. I felt like you wanted to go with your own agenda and you want to ignore what it was I was asking. My ego did not like that. And I became very righteous. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but when I get hijacked and I start having this fight or flight, I have these things going on in my body. I get sweaty and red around my face and ears. And I just become a 7-year-old kid. I wanted to have this argument and I wanted to be righteous. It just didn't go good.
He kept saying, you're the one that started this. And I'm like, I was just bringing creative ideas. I don't even know how this went down this road. I feel like you're the one that's saying you're right in this. And so then I got defensive and I was just so beside myself that I couldn't get through, and I was hijacked as well. And so he started nitpicking, well, you said this. And I'm thinking to myself, did I say that? How do I answer how do I throw something back at him when I don't even remember if I said that, but I don't think I did. And so then it becomes more about what you said, what I said, and how it was said, and what was said, and all these things. And now we're arguing about the details of the argument that are not even, they're not important.
Have you ever done this?
Yeah. Are you relating? We've just spent 8 minutes describing this ridiculous argument that we had. And so what we teach in our course is to have awareness around that. And there's certain key factors that both of us ignored, and that's why we got hijacked. But had we really used these tools, it would have been, hey, what's going on for you right now before we enter into the blah, 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 back and forth. Because when you go back and forth like that, it injures the relationship. It severs connection. My walls went up so fast, and I'm like, I don't think I want to share creative ideas anymore with him. That did not go like I thought it would.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great idea. And anytime I feel unimportant or unheard or controlled, I lose that ability to have the awareness right away. Finally, I got the awareness that we were in what we call the vicious vortex of death. And that's something else we teach in our course. And I was like, go take a walk. Just please go take a walk. Let's give this a few minutes to really let the Lord speak to our hearts. And what's my responsibility and what's your responsibility? What we know is when we're in that vicious vortex, he gets triggered and his reaction from the trigger triggers me, and my reaction from the trigger triggers him. And so it's this like loop-de-loop that goes around. It gains more momentum. Each time another trigger is hit, it's more powerful and more hurtful and digs us in deeper.
Not a fun amusement ride. It is. There's nothing fun in that vortex that goes around.
10 minutes went by. We both did the work during that time. I actually sat down and I wrote out our vortex because I really wanted to see what happened here and how did we end up arguing over this. Like, I could really see that pattern of how it was happening. I really just prayed to the Lord that he would reopen my heart so that when Travis came back, I would be open to what he had to say, because I had closed my heart off and put walls up. I didn't feel safe anymore to continue in that conversation where jabs were being thrown, and I was throwing them back. It's not like they were just one-sided. During that time, we really reflected on what is going on here, and we were able to get our prefrontal cortex working again, and that's your logical mind that helps you process and helps you see, oh, this is so ridiculous. Wow. So sad that just happened. He came back in the door. I'll let you share about that.
Yeah, I'll share what I did to take care of my heart. So I went out the door. In the past, what I used to do during our times when we were smart enough to take a break in an argument is I would go build my case. Like I would
ruminate.
I would go ruminate about it and be like, oh man, I should have said this and I should have said that, and oh, this is going to win this argument. And I would come up with all these ideas and thoughts to come back in and rehash something that would just completely destroy our relationship even further. So what I did was I went outside, I walked around in the driveway, and I just prayed to God, God, take this away from me. I know this is not who I'm committed to being. I know this is not your will for me. I know this is the enemy getting into my thoughts and mind. I want it to go away. I want to see Adele for who she is to me and not the way I feel right now. Because I knew it was temporary, and I knew it was something that was not true and not real. And so I had to let that pass through. I had to see what is truth, what is real.
You know, let go of ego.
Yeah, I had to let go of my ego, my need to be right. In that whole conversation that she was talking about, there's a whole lot of righteousness, a whole lot of I'm right, you're right, and we're battling who's right, and that's just never effective. And so I needed to let go of my ego so that when I finally was done out there after about 10 minutes, I came back in, I had an opportunity to be humble, an opportunity to let go of the ego and really see Adele's heart and see that she is my wife, you are my teammate, and you are on my team. And then I had an opportunity to go to her and just say, listen, I am sorry. You don't deserve the way I spoke to you. You don't deserve the words I said. You don't deserve the way that I treated you. Surely, our daughter does not need to hear the way that I am treating you because I would be teaching her. I am wrong for trying to be right rather than loving. And I'm wrong for trying to be right rather than relational and not hearing your heart. And I had an opportunity to be able to say, listen, the way that I showed up is not who I'm committed to being. And going forward, I do want to hear your heart, and I do want to hear this conversation. And I also told you, I don't want to shut you down from your ideas, because I know there's an opportunity there, which you just said. I know there's an opportunity there for me to teach her. Don't share. It's not safe. And that's not what I want.
Yeah. And most of the time it's because he has a different opinion than what I had. And that's exactly what happened.
Don't we all?
He had a opinion that my idea shouldn't be done. There were all kinds of reasons around that. And that's the reason we ended up getting into it, was all of that, which was just so funny. Like, looking back at it, so ridiculous.
Silly. It happens all the time. I'm sure it happens in your marriage too. It used to happen in ours all the time. The difference between working on our marriage and really getting awareness is not that we don't have arguments anymore.
Right. We're not perfect.
No.
Our marriage is not perfect.
It's not that we don't have arguments anymore. It's that when that happens, we have better and better awareness around it so that we can take a pause, take care of our heart, and come back together and reunite in our marriage.
Right. Because in the past, that, like we said, it would have perpetuated for weeks. I wouldn't have opened my heart back up, which severs the intimacy and the connection emotionally. It's very difficult to overcome a closed heart because you're not safe for me. I need to protect and survive and close so that I don't get hurt again, which is just another cycle that happens in a marriage. And that's why drift starts to happen and you start to drift apart. And before you know it, you're miles apart and don't know how you got there. And it starts with little things like this. 10 minutes to us. I mean, we don't argue very often. And when we argue, it's us literally talking like this. We used to get way out of hand. We used to yell at each other and things like that. But it never gets to that point because we know there's another side to this and we're going to get to it. It helps us stay very calm and collected in our conversation, but it does get heated in this environment. The body sensations all are happening, and that is the key. If you can catch it when that's happening, you can avoid it. But what I want you to know is don't look at what we just went through and be like, there's no way I could ever get over something in 10 minutes, because we have been doing this work for 3.5 years now. There's hope for you that you can get there too, but it takes intentionality. And then for us to even be able to sit here and re-talk about it was not available for us in the past, because it would reignite the argument because he might say something and I'm like, that's not how it went. And then down the slope we go again. And so a healthy marriage can talk about an argument and debrief it and look at it and be like, what actually happened there? Because I don't want that to happen again. I want to stay connected. I want my heart to stay open. I want you to be the safest person that I share with. When we don't make that available for our spouse, the intimacy and the love and connection and passion and all those things can't grow. It can't enhance because of a closed heart and walls that are separating from those things happening. It's so much of letting go of needing to prove my side, needing to be right, and needing to prove that he is wrong. And when you can let go of that, you can be relational and have better conversation and communication around needs, desires, feelings, and beliefs.
Yeah, I was thinking when you were saying that, like, why does that keep coming up for me? Why do I need to be right? Why do I need to be righteous? And I have experienced that my whole life, and you may have too. And I think the reason for that is I need to feel right about something, because if I am not right about it, that means I am wrong. And I take that as there's something wrong with me.
Which is why you can't admit I'm wrong here.
Yeah, there's something wrong with me. And if there's something wrong with me, that's something I've tried to avoid my whole life, is being broken. I've tried to avoid that my whole life. So I need to be right about something. And if there's something wrong with me, then I'm going to be exiled. I'm going to not be worthy. I'm going to have all these negative feelings about myself. And
it means you're a failure.
Yeah, it means I'm a failure. And it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, you can see our argument really shows the work that we've done in healing and really allowing the Lord to work in our hearts in the middle of an argument. Like, that does take a lot of relationship maturity to do that. But I encourage you, when you get into an argument with your spouse, don't throw jabs. They're not helpful. Don't say things that you're going to regret, because all that does is it builds those walls and makes those walls so much stronger. They're really hard to let back down. Choose being loving and relational over being right. And when you do that, the intimacy and the connection that is there and available for you is unbelievable. Because when he comes back and he says, like, I'm so sorry that I did that, and you're important to me, and your ideas are important, and I didn't hear you, and all those things. I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, I can feel that connection again with him. And so it's so worth it to do that. If you can just let go of being right, you can experience an amazing connection and intimacy with your spouse as well.
Thanks for joining this conversation, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye. You're not finished yet. If you found value in this video, please like and comment and let us know what you found value in. This helps us create more content that you love and ultimately you want to share with your friends and family. And this is how the Noble Marriage will impact and inspire marriages all over the world. We want you to join our community of awesome, like-minded people. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and you'll receive motivational videos that will impact your life and inspire you to be your best self. Speaking of inspirational, there are 2 videos we've attached here for further resources. So thank you for your engagement and joining our community.